don't know if it's a humble brag of you reading a book while I read a book that we're both reading.
I'm trying to catch up on the Senlin Ascend series, and I'm on book 2 right now. So
it's so good.
Yeah,
I just
it is such a good series. It's very well written.
I want to cosplay as Edith.
That would be cool.
That would be really dope.
I want to cosplay as the spoon, but I'm not going to go into any more details.
Yeah, because I don't know why you would be a spoon.
It's a
and
character.
On that note, welcome to the Dog-Eared Discourse, where we talk about the books we're reading and where we left off. I'm Chris.
I'm Kelly.
Danny.
Is this one?
And we are talking about Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. We've read the first half, and we're going to be starting with a 60-second synopsis. Juan's going to be taking on this one this time. Ready, set, go.
No pressure, no pressure. Okay, so we are introduced to the character in the sparse herring world that he inhabits right off the bat. He tells his story through these odd entries in his notebook, and you immediately notice his peculiar calendar that he uses in these. As you explore this vast labyrinth that is his world, he explains that it is a crumbling 3-level house with endless hallways filled with statues and a few dead folks. Only 2 characters are known to live in the world. There is evidence of other life, such as things that he captures to eat. All of this quickly changes with the visit of a stranger. The stranger delivers a strong warning to Piranesi.
That's it. Time.
Ooh,
Got it
good
right
job.
right
That was
on the
great.
wire.
I feel
Good
like you caught the
job.
essence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's Piranesi, there's the other, and then a stranger shows up.
And another other.
Another other, the other. Yes.
The other from another other.
Now, you might hear clinking of glasses. We have a specialty cocktail. Kelly, you want to talk about what that one is?
So the drink that we're going to be pairing with the first half of Piranesi by Susanna Clarke is called The Joining of the Three Tides, which happens once every 8 years. It is a 3-layered drink, one for each tide. First, you pour 2 ounces of blue curacao. Then you fill the cup with ice. The curacao really has to go first, otherwise it gets just kind of mixed all together. Then you add 2 ounces of hypnotic. When you add that, you make sure that you add it with a bar spoon so it makes a nice level so you can see the difference between the 2 colors. And then you float 2 ounces of Malibu on top. And then to give it that nice 3 tides feel, you take a nice glass shard made out of sugar with powdered sugar on it to make up the slosh.
And the foamies.
The foamies of the beverage.
The wave foamies.
Yeah.
And it makes a very dramatic presence on your table, just like the tides make in the book.
It definitely does. It also tastes very, very sweet.
It is sorcery.
Yeah.
Kind of how Juan was saying that the different journal entries had a really peculiar naming style. It actually starts out going from December from 2011 to June 2012. And then after a while, it goes from being years to being like explanations of some quote unquote major event that happened while he was there. And like the major events are not terribly major.
They keep track of the months and days regarding this event. So it's like he
That's the
dropped
year.
the year reference.
Yeah. And so it's like the year the albatross came.
Yeah.
I really like the way it shows how his mental state devolved like fairly quickly. You get the impression really early on that he's bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a point in which he's like, I think I'm 35 or 36. And it's like, how do you not know? Like he identifies himself as a scientist, right? And then when you're like, wait a second, how do you know what all these things are if the world only consists of these things?
That was one of my notes actually right at the beginning, is that you quickly get a feeling that in his head, everything is fine. You have this ability to see beyond what it is that he is seeing and quickly feel uneasy with what's going on around him. He's in danger of some sort, and he doesn't understand that. We don't even understand that. We don't know what it is, but you are uneasy. At least I was anyway, with everything going on around him.
He's super positive too. It's
He
great.
is. Yeah.
He's like a ray of sunshine on the apocalypse. It's weird.
What's really interesting is that as far as we know, and as far as he seems to know, there are only 2 people in the entire world. He says even like there's no scientific evidence that there's anybody else. except for some skeletons that he found. And he's not even really sure if they were ever alive, but he keeps track of them anyways. I think that adds kind of to this sense of complete unease where something is very wrong. He references things that, like books and things like that, things that could only have occurred if there were other people. And yet he seems to completely just accept that there has never been any other person other than himself.
I didn't feel the uneasiness with him, maybe because I relate to him as a person. I'm like, the world's
bubbly.
ending.
Yeah, it's all great.
Let's just enjoy life. But then, like, as soon as he met the other, I did not like the other. And I was like questioning him. And I was like, why does he have fancy shoes and a fancy suit? And why does he not have enough time to hang out with his buddy, Piranesi? Why is he doing all this work for him? And all this stuff. And I was like, I do not like this guy. Like, I do not like the other.
Yeah, you could see the like ulterior motives immediately.
Mm-hmm.
He's like his errand boy, and in his eyes, the other's eyes is how do you make use of this idiot for the things that he doesn't want to do?
And what's interesting is he calls him Piranesi, but the main character has said, "This is not my name."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And that's really
Just
interesting.
Like, okay, I'll just go along with it. Sure.
Don't know what my name is. It's not this, but
I got the impression that he knows what his name is, and it's not that. He has no idea what's going on with this guy. And like, why can the guy only stay for 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
He says that at one point. Oh, by the way, this is a spoiler heavy podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
In case you
Spoiler
didn't.
for the first half.
We assume that you've read the first half.
Yeah.
Yes.
or
Like,
that you're going to, or that you're not going to, and that's why you're listening to us in the first place.
yeah, listen to a bunch of people babble about it. But one of the things I liked the most about the writing style was the descriptions of the halls and the architecture. And that was also the most confusing part of it
Right.
for
Were
me.
you trying to keep track in your head? That was one of the things Juan and I were like, okay, well, do you know where this place is? And I'm like, okay, so I get the gist of it. I know there's Moon Garden upper area, and then there's like a cloud misty area. I know there's flooded pond where he fishes area. That's how I think of it, but I don't actually keep track of, like, oh, take a left over on the 19th hall and then go up 2 flights of stairs. And then on the right side, you'll know what I mean?
Well, he describes it as like 3 different levels, right? You have the sky level, the mid level, and the sea level is what he kind of described it as, like the lower floors, upper floors, and mid floors.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it was, what was it? The level where the ocean floods the halls.
It's the lower halls are where the oceans are, where the tides are.
Mm.
Then there's the upper level, which is where the weather is.
The domain
And
of the clouds.
The domain of the clouds. And that's where he gets his fresh water from because it rains down on
That
it,
place
stuff
was scary sounding, where he falls into that guy's hand. The
Oh,
statue's
yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
That's the same area, right?
Yeah,
I thought that was really-
he had to go to the upper floor because the floor had collapsed and he couldn't get through.
This whole story has this kind of Odyssey kind of vibe where like everything seems to mean something else. So he's going and climbing through the ruins, basically trying to find a place to fish because at that point he's starving. So he falls into the statue of the trampled man's hands. And it's basically down in the tide level is where all the scary, gigantic statues are. This labyrinth is covered wall to wall, basically, with statues to the point where if there's not a statue, it's weird. So he's crawling through the area where the scariest statues are, and he sees this man who's being stomped to death by a centaur, and he's really scared. And he loses his footing and he falls into the hand of the trampled man. He takes that to mean that the house has his best interest in mind and does not want him to fail. And like he sees all this greater meaning in every little thing that happens. I guess it would be hard not to find greater meaning, and you're literally falling to your death and you get caught by an actual
by
hand.
somebody's hand. Yeah. And that was one of the things, actually, we see the ignorance in his thoughts, but you can also see that he is very lucid in his thinking. He's not losing his marbles, even though he has this like limited capacity, and he is like trying to see the positive, or like you said, trying to see how his best interest is being kept by this world that he's in. He is thinking like very logically and clearly within maybe with what is available to him, like the evidence that's available to him. And he is trying to reason. And so you see him kind of working that out, but we almost have like this meta analysis of like everything else that's going on around him. And that was another thing that was, you start to sort of incorporate that into the mystery that surrounds not only like where he's at, but also who he is.
Can we talk about the birds?
Yes,
I think
please,
that-
let's talk about the birds. Go
I
for
feel
it.
like that's kind of relevant to this.
Especially in the year of the albatross. That,
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a section of the book where there's like a huge flock of birds and they all migrate to one statue, then this other one, and then another one, and then they leave. He takes that as odd behavior and he's like, okay, I hear you, birds. I hear you loud and clear. This is a message for me. So he has interpreted this random bird flocking to actually giving him like signs.
Yeah, and he's looking for meaning in any little thing. And I was wondering too whether that has something to do with boredom, that there are so few events that happen in his world that anytime anything happens, it must have meaning because not a lot happens. So anytime something happens, it has to mean something.
So this message that he had taken from this behavior of the birds was the first statue meant that there's a message from afar. The second statue that they landed on deduced that it was obscure writing. And the last one was innocence eroded. So the message fully was a message from afar, obscure writing, and innocence eroded. And he thinks this is something that's going to happen to him in the near future. So maybe somebody is coming from afar. After reading towards the end of the first section, I was like, dude, do you feel like this is coming true or something? Like, because
it did come through.
Yeah,
like every one of those
astrology in that moment.
Yeah. So I mean, those things did happen, right? You had the 16th person come in. You had so that was the message from afar, right? You have obscure writing, so the pages he found, and then you had innocence eroded. He's starting to question whether or not he's sane. So like all three of those things solidly happened, but that's us reading into it, right?
I interpreted it this way. The message from afar was the prophet.
The 16th, yeah.
Oh, I thought the 16th person was me. I guess that makes sense, though. And then obscure writing was his own journal entries when he goes back to the beginning of whichever one he was. And he's like, I don't recognize writing this. And he starts to think like, oh, shit, like that was me.
Yeah. He realizes that he's like on 20 something.
Yeah. And then innocence eroded is he starts to doubt himself.
And he starts to doubt the other two, right? The number 15.
He's also looking at his former self, his writings in the journal, and he starts to question the sanity of that person that he used to be and not questioning the sanity of who he is now.
I'm starting to see his logic here. It makes sense to me as the reader now. You're talking about the statue and how the house has his best interest. I'm starting to pay more attention to it, where at first you're just like, this guy is crazy. Maybe there's something more to the house.
I mean, it does seem like a magical land, right? It does not follow the real rules. Going back to the architecture, there's parts of it that just don't make any sense. Like he talks about how during winter, the statues become snow covered, but they're in ceilinged rooms.
Yeah.
And the ones that he's talking about are on his level. So there should be a room above them. And so it kind of gets confusing, at least in my mind, about how the house is structured, things like that. It's like some rooms have ceilings. You can look into these courtyards where there's nothing there, and you can see into the lower halls where you can see the tide sloshing around inside the building. It's a very odd place.
Yeah, and I think I remember something about how in those areas that the ceiling or the floor above had fallen through.
Yeah, there's a couple of those
and that's
spots
where the like freezing rain and like that freezing weather was coming through.
This place is eroding. Those places that had fallen through, now the tides can't get to those, and so that's how it made the lakes where he can fish, which is kind of neat. This is a very interesting world to explore.
Yeah, and one of the things too that I thought was really interesting was the abundance that seems to bless the other, where he comes back with a fresh new pair of Nikes for him. And I mean, he's just coming back with all this
from
loot.
An aquarium.
Yeah. And he's like, well, the house must bless him more because obviously he can't take care of himself and he needs the extra hand where I can, even though he's running around and basically shoeless in like this jagged concrete jungle.
Well, things like that made me kind of make the connection of this book reminds me a lot of Flowers for Algernon, where it's all told from the point of view of this little boy who has no grasp on the world and slowly becomes more and more and more aware. And you learn as he does that he didn't know anything before, kind of thing. He starts off very, very naive, where of course the other also lives in this house. He's just blessed more than I am. And you and I are just looking at it like, he is not from here. You can't buy shoes in this house.
Yeah.
You don't even have trees in this house. All there is fish and seaweed. Like, come on, guy. Like,
And
get
birds.
it together.
There's a lot of
And
birds.
birds.
And he specifically says like, oh, I've already been here 45 minutes. I got to go. That,
Red flags, man.
yeah.
So you know that Piranesi knows what a watch is because he has one. But what do you think is that shining object that the other is constantly like staring at and like
It's a
playing with?
telephone.
I think it's a
Think so?
phone.
Yeah, that's. I thought it was a tablet of some sort or a
Yeah.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps tapping on a shiny thing.
Yeah, he says a device, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he says shiny thing.
And that
Keeps
was
his
the
notes there.
thing. Like at
Well, what
first,
year
when
is
you
it, you think?
realize.
Because they were talking about like the early 1900s, right? Is it
No,
No, it was like
2011.
Yeah, 2011.
Oh.
So he has
okay.
all of
Probably be
those
like
notebooks and
2020.
everything. Yeah,
was
His
something-
notebooks end in 2012.
Wow. Okay. I kind of missed that.
Yeah.
but that does lead to an interesting point of him encountering all of these objects. For example, that the other is bringing back to him. He doesn't question them. It's like, oh, I got a watch. Cool, I got a watch. So, and then that really becomes relevant when he starts to read about these places and these things that he has no knowledge of. It's a revelation to him that feels comfortable. So he starts to question like these towns. He's like, those seem like silly words, but
But then he has flashbacks of them.
right.
Kind of.
He's like, I don't know what this is, but it seems like universities would be at a place that they would be. There is something there. He just can't flesh it out. It's like this hazy dream that he's not afraid of and he doesn't question.
So one of the things that I caught, like, I'm not really sure where is it, when he was listing the gifts from the other that he was
Yeah.
given.
Yeah.
One of them that he was given was a polymer net, and he knows what a polymer net is.
Yeah.
Mm.
And a polymer filament net. And he's like, oh yeah, there's a polymer filament net for catching fish. It's like, wait a second. Wait a
How do you
second.
know?
Oh, and the wrappers, the food.
Oh, food
Yeah.
wrappers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Like
crisps
a
or
hot
something.
crisp and like hot dog.
I like how they kind of explain that, like he actually found the portal that gets you between worlds,
Yeah.
and it's under a bridge somewhere and homeless people are using it. That's how I interpreted that.
Yeah.
Because there was like rappers were coming in, but like another guy also had them, and he assumed it was from them, but he could also hear people through the portal.
I think there was the skeleton monkey in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I was like, how funny would it be that you're just this little monkey hanging out and all of a sudden you like swing on the wrong branch and you enter this weird labyrinth, and now you have this like, you have a dead monkey in your labyrinth. So I'm like, is the place somewhere that,
Like at a zoo.
well, maybe at a zoo, but it's just somewhere randomly, like in a jungle or something, that occasionally some animal will wander in.
Well, he did say that
Well-
some people have the ability to blink back and forth, right? So he's talked about the prophet. They say that there are people that can go back and forth between this. Birds and cats can do it easily, but where are all the cats? Right?
Can you tell us more about the prophet?
He comes to this world and starts giving Piranesi.
Yeah, I think it's
Some
Piranesi.
Nailed it.
warnings.
Yeah, he starts-
He's warning him for a
Yeah.
future dude that's going to show up and
And he
It's gonna
kind
be
of
looking for
starts
him.
talking to him in a like
Very
he starts
candidly.
yeah, very candidly, like he
like he knows him.
it's
or
like
something.
it's that, what is that saying, that dead men hold no secrets, where he's
Dead
just
men
telling him everything up front, no need to beat around the bush.
And
He's
just
like,
to keep in mind, up until this point, Piranesi has only ever encountered, as far as we know, himself and the other, who is the guy who has bestowed upon him gifts and kind of only comes in for 45 minutes at a time or so.
And the other does not let Piranesi know anything.
He
talk to
doesn't
him.
say a single word about
Yeah.
any other person.
Doesn't
So
answer
now,
questions.
Mm-hmm.
this 16th person, the prophet, wanders into the life and just starts talking.
He talks about theories, a little bit of theories of
okay.
it, right? Like they think
they
that
think.
it's ideas,
Yeah.
that it's a storage place for ideas.
I
Yeah.
missed the portal part though. I thought if you had the ability to go there, you could just do it. I didn't realize that there was like an actual
There was
like
I
portal.
think he said it's in the first chamber.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
first area.
In the first chamber, there exists an area where the shadows become blacker and they look like they're further away, and there might be a pinprick somewhere else, and he could hear voices coming through there.
Okay. Do you think because that's where he entered through, that's why that hall is significant, that he names all the other halls according to that one?
It could be.
He starts it from one space specifically, and I'm not sure why he started there. It could be because of there's
I
a
think
portal.
he forgets too.
I don't think he remembers why it's his favorite, but he does specifically state that he can remember every statue in every hall, in every direction as far as he's explored. And he can describe every single statue
In relation to this hall. And that's the
in
one with
relation to
the
this one point.
portal. Okay.
Room 1.
One of the thoughts I had when I was reading it was the other is significantly older than him, and the prophet is also. So the other warns him, amongst other things, that he will lose his memory in this place. Is he losing his memory because time is different? Is he supposed to be the age of the other in this prophet?
Maybe time doesn't exist, or not time, but like he doesn't age in
Right.
this world
And
versus in the other world.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of bouncing around, whether that had something to do with the fact that he sort of started losing old memories. He wasn't losing the ability to form new memories. He lost old memories. So is it just because so much time has gone by that sort of just fades away?
I'm kind of getting the sense that there's a set amount of time that you can be in this place, that you can be on this side of the portal before you start to lose your grip on what quote unquote regular time is. There are large portions of Piranesi's journal that are written down by his own hand, and he has zero recollection of it happening. And as far as we know, those journals that he has right now have only been taken for 5 years. I remember things from 5 years ago. So for that to be hundreds of years ago, maybe that would make sense. But 5 years ago makes me think that it's messing with your memory somehow. Like maybe it's trying to make you forget the life you had before so that you can be completely immersed in this one.
Yeah, I don't know if like the timing is different, because also the other is saying, Piranesi, we're supposed to meet on Tuesdays at 7:00, and sometimes you're not here.
And he taps his watch quite a bit for a guy who like he is, or I'm talking about the other, he is wanting to get out in maximum 1 hour.
I wonder if he's scared. If he spends enough time in this place, he's going to also start losing it. Because there's a few people that I feel like we start to hear about, and they go crazy. They are losing it. And I think maybe everybody has a different tolerance of the castle, the labyrinth. And Piranesi has some lucidity, and he is brilliant, and he's a scientist, and there's a lot that he does know. But yeah, anything like regarding his past life is kind of non-existent in his mind. He's like a different person. Whereas we hear from other people, maybe it's because they're not in the labyrinth anymore, that they're incoherent.
Yeah, because we do eventually find out about people who went into the labyrinth, came out, went in, came out, like back and forth. I guess the other's kind of doing that. But we also hear about people who seem to have spent a significant amount of time in there before getting yoinked out. Ritter is one of them, who is the one who left all those crisp packets by the Minotaurs. He ends up getting pulled out and is found in a really horrible state. And as far as we know, years later, it sounds like it's 20, 30 years later, he still is kind of spacey, can barely function. He is living in a commune or something.
But he's like taking care of a hall of some sort, or a church, or some like
because
building.
it brought him peace.
Yeah, because it's like being at this castle place, because it has big like empty halls, but he's still like crazy.
I think Piranesi's has been there for a while. Like he goes back and revisits his journal number 1, right? And he realizes that the 2 in front of it has been scratched out.
Yeah.
So it's really journal 21. And so where are the rest of the journals? And
I'm so curious where the rest of the journals are.
Because Piranesi is very good about indexing. That's what he likes to do with all of his stuff. So that way he can cross-reference it. And so he goes back to his index, right? And his index is referencing journals that don't exist. And so of the journals that do exist, he finds these references that he can't explain. I want to know about this one thing. And he goes back to that.
I want to know why this place is the way it is.
Well, another question is like the Temple of the Moon that he found.
Yeah.
Right? Where he finds this temple and it's completely enclosed, right? It's the where there's no windows in it at all, and it's completely pitch black inside. And then when he goes in at night and he can see the moon rises directly in the doorway, and all the people are like looking like they're basically worshiping the moon, but they're not in their usual statue places. They're all in a big crowd, right? They're not on their stands or anything like that. So is there more temples? That'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah, that is crazy.
So the reason he goes out to this moon temple is because the other, who is dead set on getting these great and secret knowledge that he believes wholeheartedly is somewhere in this labyrinth. The other keeps coming back to Piranesi to try to research, like, what new things have you found? Kind of trying to get him to the point where, okay, just tell me where the great knowledge is. They end up deciding that the moon temple, for whatever reason, I don't really remember why they decided this was where
he can see the brightest star, where the other can do this ritual because it's a great source of power, so that hopefully the ritual will work this time.
Right.
Yeah, so they are scientists, but they're trying to do magic. And that probably makes sense considering they found a whole different world. It sounds like science and magic are meeting.
Yeah, and so and if they find this great knowledge, they could have who knows what it could be. Some guesses are vanquishing death, becoming immortal, learning telepathy and what other people are thinking, transforming into eagles, transforming into fish, moving objects using only your mind, snuffing out and reigniting the sun and stars, dominating lesser intellectuals and bending them to our will. All very great. All very suggestive that there are more than two people in the world. And the other wants this knowledge so bad. And so he even says that he would be willing, no matter how far it is, he would be willing to stay in the temple for longer than 45 minutes to an hour if he was able to access the power of the brightest star in Labyrinth World.
Just so he can try and get this stuff.
Yeah.
And Piranesi, at this point, like, he reflects back on these things and he's like, you know what? I'm not really that interested. I'm not going to hamper you, but I'm not that interested. And the other is like, dude, we've had this conversation 3 times. And that's
Going back to, is this hundreds of years or is the house messing with his mind?
Oh, the house is definitely messing with this dude's mind. I think he's been in here about 20 years, 15 to 20.
Yeah, and he's obviously losing track of conversations, and it seems like, I don't know if it scales. I know we talked about this, if it scales linear, where you lose the same amount of your faculties in over a period of time, or if it gets worse and worse.
Like exponential.
Right. Because if he's had this conversation, 3 times with him already, is that broken up like every 5 years he resets, or is there like a period? Yeah, exactly.
I think he said it was every 14 months or something like that. This is when you forget and you question if we should keep looking for the knowledge or not.
Oh.
Do you guys remember?
That's true. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
He's like,
I don't remember what the period was, but there was like a cycle to it. I do like after the prophet or 16 talks to him, how he goes back. This is going back to the journals and him questioning the sanity of the person that wrote those, and slowly going back and trying to assign the lives that he wrote about in those journals to the corpses that are littering his world now, and trying to sort of piece together how or what befell each one of these.
So there are 13 dead bodies in this temple, and the prophet says like, oh, that must be so-and-so. Oh, and that other one must be this person. And that person should be this person.
Stanley, right? Stanley Ovenden. And then as he goes to index Stanley Ovenden, because the other had mentioned it, he sees that there's already an entry for him. Yeah. And he's like, student at Lawrence Ann Sales, journal number 21, page 154. Also see the disappearance of... He's just like, what?
Oh my God.
I wrote this? Yeah, he's getting really confused once he goes back and reviews the indexes. This is right near the end of where we were reading. And it's starting to get juicy.
Yeah. I think the prophet is a vile guy and a villain, and has had his hand in killing or
Well, he does say that somebody's going to hunt you down, and also don't let him know that you're loony, right?
Yeah.
Like if you let him know you're loony, he's going to do you in.
Mhm.
So who do you think that is more trustworthy? The prophet, who is new to the game but gave a ton of really great information, or the other who is kind of more familiar but is kind of more like standoffish?
I don't think either of them should be
Right.
trusted. I think that both of them have their own agenda, and he's unfortunately a little pawn in a big pool.
Yeah, that's sort of the feeling that I get too, is neither is benign, but they have very different motivations. I think they're the same person, just one has given up and the other is still hungry to find whatever. They may have started as the same person, but one of them just said, you know what, I have tenure, I'm done with this.
Yeah, he also went to prison.
Right.
Also that, yeah.
Number 16,
Yeah.
He's got
or the
that
prophet.
teardrop under his eye.
Yeah, he just comes back from prison. He's like, oh yeah, I just did some time.
Yeah.
Like he
Lifts
mentioned,
his shirt is just prison tats.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got 13 tattoos.
They're the number of people I
Influenced.
taught how to read on the
I was
inside.
an influencer back in my day as an influencer.
Yeah, I influenced
Before it
them
was cool.
with my fist.
I think the
I was the
other
headbutting
was
champion on the inside.
probably a little more trustworthy, only because the other is the one who brought Piranesi to this world to begin with and has put him to work. The other is still working, he's still trucking along trying to get the secret knowledge, and he brought Piranesi there probably for a reason, and I think it is because he needs his help to navigate the tower. The
But
labyrinth or
would
whatever.
he
doesn't-
dispose of him?
yes,
Right. That's the
He
feeling I get.
literally said, I won't hesitate, bitch.
Okay, you know what?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where I was getting to next, is that
Well, the
both of them
prophets-
speak to him candidly about
Yeah.
if one of them's like, hey, some guy's going to try to kill you and you should know that you're here, and you're kind of an idiot, and but we love you and watch out for this guy. And then the other is just like,
I'm going to kill you.
well, now that you know that, let me just be upfront with you. I will kill you.
Okay, I changed my answer then.
Also, did the other kill the other guys?
Yeah, or the prophet. I don't know. I think they had something to do
I
with
think
it.
that
If
they
the
might
prophet-
also not have been prepared.
If the prophet
Yeah.
is the scientist, then he did send those people to their deaths. But that's a great point, is that they might have just not known what they were dealing with. And so they sent these kids, because they're like 20 somethings, into the labyrinth, not knowing what they were looking at. And they died there.
Didn't they make mention too that they had gone there completely unprepared or something like that? Like they were unprepared for their journey, or
Yeah, he found one sleeping bag, I think, but it was washed up
Oh.
on shore or something like that, because that
Yeah.
wasn't a gift from the other; it was a gift from the labyrinth.
Mm.
He does mention that he doesn't find very much supplies or anything around them.
Oh yeah. So I think also for some people it would be hard for them to travel back. So they got to this tower, this labyrinth, and they couldn't figure out how to get back, and they didn't know how to survive.
They
Like
didn't know how
that's
to fish.
Yeah.
Maybe Piranesi was just the lucky one that figured it out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I did change my answer. So, and the only reason is because the prophet straight up tells this guy, "You're not going to see me again." So you can't worry about a dude that's like, "Yeah, I was just here to check up on you, but you know what? I'm not going to come back." So he's pretty trustworthy, I think.
yeah, I don't think he held anything back from him. He, like I said, dead men hold no secrets. He's speaking to him plainly and clearly because he's in no way afraid that it's going to get back to him or that this will be held against him somehow. He just openly and candidly tells him whatever it is he needs to tell him. And then when the other just flat out tells him that he may kill him, you start to see how he views Piranesi. He's not looking at him like this is his partner, or that, each one of them is holding up their end of the deal on something. Someone who is convenient for him to use.
Mm-hmm.
You have Piranesi, and he's clearly has realized that he's going nuts, right? And he knows that the cause of it is the house, right? He actually specifically has that thought.
Yeah.
And he immediately is like, that's fine. It must have been for a reason. I'm wondering what that reason is, because he says, do you trust the house?
Yeah.
And he's
That's
like, yes, I
crazy.
do. And if the house made you forget, then it's done so for a good reason. But I do not understand that reason. It does not matter that you do not understand the reason. You are the beloved child of the house. Be comforted. And I am comforted. And that was a very, like, I highlighted that. I'm like, that is a moving statement from this guy.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter why I'm insane. I know that the house did it. It was for a good reason. Treating it kind of like God,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
like a God-like figure.
Yeah.
Like where he's of the religion of the house. The house is the one that he trusts. Do you trust the house? That's what I'm asking the group. Do you trust the house? Do you think it made him forget for a good reason?
I think there's evidence that, I mean, he's still alive and none of the others are. So
Looking for.
I think that's projecting a lot onto the house, like
Yeah.
that it has intentions or
Yeah, it's putting a lot of intention into the actions of the house. Like when we were talking about the birds earlier, it happened to work out that it could be interpreted properly.
it's that old
But
Einstein
I could have
quote
made
of,
anything fit those little snippets. A fortune cookie says, "Oh, today's your lucky day." Well, I did find a penny, so that's true.
I am alive.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we do have a skeptic. All right.
So I think that the house is just doing its thing, and Piranesi happens to be alive in it.
yeah.
Is kind of my. That is probably going to end up being incorrect. I'm sure that there's going to end up being a deeper meaning to it, but my gut feeling is skepticism.
Did they talk about other places existing, or was this the only place that they could travel to?
No, so I actually just went to that passage.
Okay.
So when he's looking through the biography of one of the other people that probably is dead, they mention this where they start describing this labyrinth, and he said, according to the people who believe such things, this is a record of one of Arne Sele's other worlds, possibly the one described in his 2000 book, The Labyrinth. So he's describing these other worlds.
The labyrinth is one of them.
The labyrinth is one of them, and that's the one that they're in.
Wow. Okay.
So this might be
I want to read his book.
one of many.
Okay.
So there's one girl that we do see getting to this house, and her name is Sylvia D'Agostino. And she is this witchy genius who works with the professor and ends up getting her doctorate, and instead of going with what her doctorate was, continued to be the professor's like personal assistant, basically, which I think was a little weird.
He has issues, so she was
Yeah.
probably like forced into it.
She ends up being able to blink in and out of these places at will. She doesn't need the portal to get to these places. Have we found her body in the labyrinth?
He doesn't know whose body he has.
Because I'm wondering if this becomes more important later, because she seems kind of like a cool character. She ends up being a filmmaker who makes these films that are kind of weird, probably not my taste, a little spooky and
low budgety.
low budgety, a little Blair Witch, but with no plot. But they do have very definitive images of the labyrinth itself. So she's definitely confirmed to be there, definitely confirmed to be able to go in and out, and has connections to this professor.
Okay, so they have the biscuit box man, the concealed person, which I think is kind of a child, the fish leather man, the people of the alcove, the folded up child. Oh, that was the one that was like squished.
The concealed man was the one that was like behind.
Someone folded him
he's
up like
behind
like
one of the
laundry.
statues.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he couldn't remove it from behind the statues without it falling apart or something like that.
And I think the folded up child was
Make
a
six
female.
sconce out of that.
Because he was talking about how that might be the house.
A nice
like,
centerpiece.
to move to continue on the population for the house.
Oh yeah.
That was going to be his like wife, but it was like a kid at that point that died. So
yeah, because he thinks he's been there his whole time, right? So he thinks he's been there forever, but he can't remember his childhood, which is weird. So yeah,
So I don't think she's there. I don't think her body is there.
well,
I know, because she can just flit in and out whenever she wants. She's an enigma.
but I've also brought this up a couple times, but the cats thing,
Yeah.
like in the same thing where he was talking about how this person could go in and out really easily and some people have to be shown, in around about that same area, he talks about how some animals can do it too, birds and cats. We don't see any cats. Are we going to run into a horde of cats down one of the hallways where this giant cat just roams?
Yeah, they're never brought up ever. So that is interesting to use it as an example.
Right. So if some people can blink in and out of worlds, maybe cats go into one world. She can blink in and out of different worlds. Birds come here. Birds and fish and seaweed.
Yeah, we see the birds. We see the fish. No cats.
Albatross.
I actually had to look up what an albatross was. I didn't know what it looked like.
It's a very, very big bird.
All of those, I think, are just migratory birds too, that travel large distances, right?
Yeah, a bunch of sparrows. Or
do sparrows, are they transient?
Are they transient? Are they a transient bird?
Yeah.
Are they vagabonds?
Yes.
Van lifers in the air.
They just fly around with sticks with the little pouch at the end.
Yeah.
I think I saw that in a Disney movie.
That's so funny.
But I have no idea. I'm not an ornithologist.
Yeah.
Oh.
We got to get
Word of the day.
We
Word
need
of
to
the
hit
day.
up the Audubon
Vocab
Society.
words.
Audubon Society.
But that I guess is might be something worth exploring, whether the link between the world, why are there no cats, and whether these are birds that fly long distances and somehow they end up here.
Right.
Back to our portal, like how do you actually get there?
Yeah, that would be like how do they get there?
Yeah, because cats don't just wander around. They're wandering around their neighborhood, but birds are flying potentially thousands of miles.
Like albatrosses fly over the sea.
Yeah.
If you're flying over the sea and there's no sea, right? All the tides are in the basement.
Yeah.
So what it does an albatross has to do,
and you have to
landing
have
here.
land to have a tide. So is this a
You have to
jump
have a move.
or
Oh,
yes?
I just thought of something as you guys were talking.
Go for it.
The three tides, which we based our drink off of, what if one of the tides represents Piranesi and one of the tides represents the other, and the third tide
represents laundry detergent?
a delicious snack for the end of the day.
Small pods.
No, it represents the prophet. Once every 8 years, they converge, which is why once every so often, Piranesi forgets everything and then retaught everything.
I thought we weren't supposed to read into it.
Isn't that what we're here for?
No, I mean, like you were the pessimist who was like, no, the bird's prophecy doesn't mean anything, and now we're
The
talking.
tides.
Now we're talking about the
tides.
tides.
Yeah.
The tides ebb and flow.
You know
with
what,
the
Kelly?
Moon.
Kelly,
See?
it's because you made
It
a
all
drink.
comes together. Oh,
You
yeah.
called it's because you made the drink and you called the drink the converging of the three tides or whatever you called it, and that is why it's come true because of that.
Mark my words.
Mark my words.
It's called manifestation.
Projection.
I'm very excited to finish reading this book. I'm super stoked for it. This is going to be great.
Yeah, overall, I'm really impressed with this book. I think it's a great book to start out the year. I'm loving it so far. It's so strange.
Now for the good stuff. Predictions for what happens next.
Oh,
Predictions.
okay.
I have no idea.
I know.
You're not
that-
even a guess?
I'll have a guess in a minute.
Well, if you listen to the introductory episode, you will know that I have zero. No, I think the more I read, the more I wanted to find out. It was hard pumping the brakes when I got to halfway point of the book,
yeah.
because you start to, all these revelations start to come, and you see like these,
Left and right.
all these little strands sort of start to come together, and you see a guy, and this is where I kind of had the feeling that he knows that his mind is sound and he was able to make sense of things before. In a way, it seems so ignorant for him trying to read into every event. So why would he not be able to make sense of these events that are happening before him. The closer to the halfway point I got, the more I realized that I needed to finish the book because I wanted to see who this other person was. And I don't think any of these things are coincidence. There is too little going on in that world.
Yeah.
Okay. I got my prediction. Okay. So they mentioned that the house is where thoughts go, right? That the labyrinth is where thoughts get taken. And that at one point the prophet muses that maybe some of the computers, maybe some of their thoughts are in far off halls. I think Piranesi is going to find himself. I think he's going to find his own thoughts as he's going through it. And he's going to start recognizing statues of himself.
Ooh, okay.
I think he's going to leave. I think at the end of the book, he's going to escape somehow. And I don't know if he's going to be okay afterwards. But that's my guess. That's my guess.
He's going to get out.
Yep.
Okay. Escape.
I think he might make it out for a second, but I think he comes back.
He's a follower of
the house. He believes wholeheartedly. But I think that he's going to meet Sylvia, who is the witch girl who flips in and out. She's disappeared. She's gone. We don't know what happened to her. I think that he's going to come to blows with either the other or the prophet.
Or the other person that's looking for him.
Or all of the above.
Yeah, or all of the above.
A royal rumble off the top rope.
Team up with Sylvia. In my mind, she's very witchy. I don't know why I even came to that conclusion. But
yeah, I was wondering how you got to witchy. I was like, I'm going to need to reread about this.
You know why?
Because of death,
she wanted
stars,
to take
and mathematics.
Death, stars, and mathematics as her major. And she was like super bummed that she had to take mathematics only. I think he's going to meet Sylvia. They're going to team up, fight one of the prophet or the other, and they're going to come out into the real world, and then they're going to go right back. Well, he's going to go right back. I don't know what she's going to do. But I think that ultimately he ends up still in the house. I don't think he leaves. And the tides will crash again.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Dog-Eared Discourse podcast. Make sure to join us. Next episode, we'll be reading the last half of Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Go onto our website at dogeareddiscourse.com. We're going to have our reading schedule on there, our Instagram, Dog-Eared Discourse, and we'll see you next time.